Hello, tarot friends. How are you all? It is April 5th, and I am wanting to talk a little bit about my March favorites, or the decks that I used the most in March. So I used, because it was Women's History Month, I pulled a card. Well, I tried to pull one every day, but that did not happen. So I pulled a card, I think like 23 or 24 days in March, from Our Tarot by Sarah Shipman. This is the indie version. It comes with a nice guidebook with, I would say, 3 or 4 pages on each of the cards. And so what Sarah has done is she's gone through the annals of history, and she has pulled out 78 women over the course of all time, really. She tells their stories in the guidebook, and she matches different women up with different tarot cards. And you can usually see the connection that is between the meaning of the card and that particular woman. So I did this last year in Women's History Month. And so I, pulled a card every day and put it back in the deck and pulled a card and so forth. This year I decided, so I could get a wider range and not get repeats necessarily, I pulled a card and then it stayed out of the deck, and then I pulled a card and it stayed out of the deck. So I just wanted to show you a few of the cards. This is Nzinga as the Keeper of Pentacles. She doesn't use the traditional court names. This is Octavia Butler. Laura at Aquamarine 18. If you watch this one's for you. Katherine Johnson. So, Octavia Butler was a young adult author, and she did a lot of dystopian books. Wonderful, wonderful writer. And sadly, I feel like what she wrote is coming true more and more as every day goes by. This is Katherine Johnson, mathematician, and she was on the team at NASA that launched a lot of famous flights. Are they called flights when they go out into wherever they go? I don't know. One of my personal favorites, Frida Kahlo. She is death, Frida. Katherine Johnson was the 8 of Pentacles, and Octavia Butler was the 3 of Pentacles. Benazir Bhutto, the first and perhaps, I think, probably only female Prime Minister of Pakistan. She was the Prime Minister for some time, and then shenanigans happened and she was voted out, and then a few years later decided to run again, knowing that she was putting her life at risk. And in fact, before the elections even happened, she was assassinated. Boudica, so this is an example of sort of an ancient history. She helped the British, or I don't know if they were the Anglo-Saxons then. Anyway, the British defend themselves from the Roman invaders. And she was a fierce, fierce, fierce warrior. Catherine II as Queen of Pentacles. I love this one. Nefertari as the Empress. Emily Dickinson as the Hermit, which is perfect because that's what she was. And Assata Shakur as the Keeper of Swords. She is a brilliant, brilliant woman. She was part of the Black Liberation Army in the late 60s and 70s. And she originally joined the Black Panthers, but felt that they were too patriarchal, and then joined one of their offshoots called the Black Liberation Army. She was fierce. She is fierce. She's still alive. However, she had to flee this country because she was involved in a roadside incident where a state trooper got murdered, and she's an accessory. So she fled the United States and has lived in Cuba ever since the 70s. And in fact, she was in jail for a while, and the Black Liberation Army helped her break out of prison. So it's quite the story, this woman. So that's just, Anne Frank, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Shirley Chisholm, oh, one of my favorites. I just remember when she was running for president, you know, she didn't have a snowball's chance, but she went out there and she gave it her all. And as a very young woman at the time, I was so happy to see a woman running for president. It just, you know, it was uplifting and it was empowering. Mae Jemison, NASA astronaut. Oh, Hildegard de Bingham. And it's funny, because I'm an herbalist, I always think of Hildegard as an herbalist. She was a writer, so an author, a musician. She was a mother superior of a nunnery that broke away from the monks, and the nuns lived on their own. She was very bright and very powerful and very much ahead of her time. And in the guidebook, it doesn't even mention that she's an herbalist, but she's anyone who studied herbalism knows of her, and she was a brilliant herbalist back in the 1500s. Alice Coltrane, amazing musician. Hypatia, another of an older historical folks. And this is Claudette Colvin. And Claudette Colvin, I picked her on the 31st of March. Claudette Colvin refused to give her seat up on the bus to a white person about 9 months before Rosa Parks did. She, and there were some other young women who did this. She was 15 at the time. She was arrested, put in jail, and put on trial, and was convicted. She never went on to achieve the fame of Rosa Parks. And I guess folks decided that they would bring Rosa Parks forward because she seemed like a more sympathetic person or something. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, there's just so many wonderful women in that deck, and you got to think, how would you narrow it down to 70? How would you pick the 78? So it would be nice if maybe she did a version 2 with 78 different women. But anyway, I use this deck every year in March. And that's really about the only time I do use it, because I think of it as a women's history month deck. So other decks that I used. This is a fairly new deck. It's the Superlunaris. I'm not exactly sure. It's really a beautiful, beautiful deck. I got it in January, I believe. And it is pretty much Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's what I want in a modern deck, which is diverse and beautiful, but readable. Like I've bought so many beautiful decks and then gotten them into my collection, and I can't read with them. It's like they're beautiful pieces of art, but somehow I can't connect to them. But this one I think is beautiful, and I can connect. Here's our Fool. 10 of Swords, just pulling these out randomly. 4 of Pentacles. So you can see the Rider-Waite-Smith influence. Here's the Star. I can't see. Oh, 10 of Pentacles. Oh, here's a Hermit. Justice. Oh, this is a lovely 6 of Cups. Love this Magician. So I have showed this deck on other occasions, but I am Page of Pentacles. I'm really enjoying it, and as I said, I think it's a beautiful deck. I'm not necessarily a collage person, but I really like this one, and I find it to be a good reader as well. I use the Gentle Tarot a lot in March, and I'm not going to show that because it's all over social media, and I mentioned it in a video I did earlier. I think my January favorites. I love this. I did back it on Kickstarter. I think it's wonderful. There's a lot of Native American decks in tarot decks out there, but they're all by white people. So this is a Native American deck by a Native American. I'm sorry, it's Mari in the Sky, and it's beautiful. She is a member of a tribe in Alaska, and it's a lovely deck. And as I said, I'll be honest with you, so I backed it and it came and I opened it up. It's beautiful packaging, beautiful box, beautiful cards. I went through it and I just was kind of like, oh, I don't think I'm going to use this. I was going to give it to my daughter or one of her friends. I just thought it felt really young. So I thought, well, you know what? Let me at least do a couple readings with it. Oh my gosh, I love it. It is so lovely and wonderful. It's called the Gentle Tarot. Yes, it has a gentleness to it, but it doesn't hold punches at all. It really tells it like it is. So I really love this deck, and I'll continue to be using it a lot. I find it to be a really earthy deck. So when I'm looking for that kind of an energy, I'll pull that out. Another deck that is fairly new to me is this one, the True Heart Intuitive Tarot by Rachel True. And it's got a great guidebook. I think it's interesting because, well, Rachel personalizes the guidebook. So she goes through the cards. She talks about the meanings of the cards. She has what she calls the high vibe and the low vibe. So like upright and reversed, which I think is an interesting way to kind of look at the cards energetically at a high vibration and a lower vibration. It is Rider-Waite-Smith based. It's published by Houghton Mifflin? Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Yeah. It comes in this cardboard box. It does split the deck in two. Not my favorite thing, but oh well. Anyway, in this book, she talks about each card, talks about the high vibe, the low vibe, and then she gives an experience from her life that she feels embraces the energy of that card. So it's kind of fun to read the guidebook. It is diverse. So it is diverse in a way. So there's really no older people. There's no folks who are differently abled. I don't think there's any folks who are have ambiguous gender, but you know, at least we see folks from a range of different cultures. So I'm using it now. I used it in March. I'll be using it in April and May too, because I feel like it's a very springy, there's something about it that I find very springy, the color palette. There's Justice, the Seven of Cups. So there are occasionally in this deck these folks who are like silhouettes, and I find that to be very nice. Here's the Chariot. Love this Moon card. It's got this wonderful sacred geometry in it. The Star. It's a lovely Three of Cups. Ace of Swords. Again, here's one of these sort of silhouetted people. This is the Four of Cups. It's a different kind of a Four of Cups. Oh, I love this. Look at this Nine of Swords. It's fantastic, right? Yeah. Nine of Cups. And here's the beautiful Sun card with no creepy baby. Yay. Princess of Cups. Sorry, Princess of Discs. No, Cups. And I love this Magician. Love this Empress. Yay, she's not pregnant. She looks powerful. She looks like someone who is a ruler, and I really appreciate it. Here's the High Priestess. And let's end with the World. Beautiful World card. So I'm really enjoying this deck. I find it lovely to read with. Rachel has included a number of spreads in here. The guidebook is great, and cardstock sucks, but you know, I think it was less than $15 for this deck and book. So what a great bargain. So I think it's a great deck for a new person who's just starting out in tarot, because it is Rider-Waite-Smith based. And as I said in the guidebook, Rachel takes each one of the cards and tells a personal story from her life. So it really helps you kind of crystallize or glean the meaning of that card. A deck that I sometimes forget to mention, but I use this deck every day. Maybe that's why I forget to mention it. And it's the Living Wheel by Patrick Fogarty. So out on my altar every day, I have the sun and the sign that it's in, and the moon phase and the sign. Am I doing this upside down? Sorry. That it's in. And then I have the Earth, planet Earth, and I pull the seasonal card. So there's 8 seasonal cards that go along with the Wheel of the Year. And Patrick calls them, like for example, this is spring equinox, so it would be spring. And then the card for Beltane, he would call high spring. And then the summer solstice is the summer card, and then Lughnasadh would be high summer. So there's 2 cards per season, and it follows the Wheel of the Year. And I love this deck. You can use it like an oracle. You can just ask a question, shuffle, and lay it out. You can do it that way, but I like it because I have it on my altar, and it makes me think about every day where the earth is, where the sun is, what phase the moon is in, and what sign the moon is in. So I like that because it keeps me in touch on a daily basis with the astrological happenings. So another deck I got in March. This is the Heavenly Bodies astrology deck by Lily Ashwell. And I saw this on Rose, Dancing. Oh no, Rose, why am I not remembering your channel's name? Dancing with Soul. Anyway, Rose kept showing these cards, and I mean, I don't need I have that beautiful living wheel. I love it. It totally fills me with happiness. But I would like to have a deck that I can use to study and learn more about astrology. And that's how I will be using this deck by Lily Ashwell, Heavenly Bodies. It is beautiful and so different from Patrick's deck. Patrick's is this, graphite and gold, and this is all these pastels. So here we have the sun, so we have the planets, sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and last but not least, we have Chiron. Here's Pluto, and here's Chiron. And then it has the astrological signs, so Aries through Pisces. It has the houses, and then it has the different aspects, so like conjunction, opposition, trine, square, sextile. And then we have air, fire, water, earth. So the elements have yin and yang, and then we have cardinal, fixed, mutable, north node, south node. So I'm really going to be using this as a study deck. I'm not going to use it to do readings with, and I'm looking forward to it. I like the book a lot. It's very accessible and very easy to understand. So that's my plan with that one. So another deck that I got recently, I'm really trying not to, and now this is the third deck I'm saying, oh, and another new one. But this was a deck I backed a while ago on Kickstarter, and it actually came February 28th, but I didn't really get to use it in February, so I'm counting it as a March. Oops, let me put these in order. So that's the Cosmovision. These are the art cards, and I have never, ever been involved in a Kickstarter like this one. It was amazing. And James R. Eads was so communicative and clear, and every time we turned around, it's like, oh, another stretch goal, another stretch goal, another stretch goal. So we got a lot of loot with the deck. So you paid for the deck. I know the Cosmovisions, the quality of it is amazing. The box is beautiful. It has a little booklet like the Prismavisions deck. It's incredible. I paid, I think, an extra $10 to get these art cards and to get a spread cloth, because the spread cloth is, I have it right here. It is two-sided. So this is for the Cosmovision. No, sorry, this is for the Prismavision. And then this side is for the Cosmovision. And I really liked it because I have other spread cloths and I don't use them because they're so thin that when you put the cards on them, they just move around and wiggle, and it drives my Virgo rising self crazy. So when I saw that was a nice, sturdy, thick cloth, I jumped on it, and I did get that. Before the pandemic, I traveled a lot for work, and so I like to set up a little altar in my hotel room because I'm there for 5 or 6 days at a time. And so once I go back on the road again, who knows when, but at some point I probably will, I'll be using that. I'll take that cloth with me, and I can put that down as the base for my altar. And that's when I use these living wheel cards a lot. They're so comforting when I travel. As soon as I get in my hotel room, I set up my little altar with the living wheel cards and a beeswax candle and, a couple of crystals and a feather or a shell, whatever. And I feel at home in the room. Give a little spray of Florida water, and now I can settle in. So I will be using that. But this is, he calls it an oracle, but to me, it's really a tarot. It's got 22 majors, and then it has the 4 suits, and the suits go ace through 10. And then he added a 5th suit that he calls ether, spirit. Sorry, I can't remember. And it's all the court cards. So you could separate those out and make suits 1 through 14, if ace through king, if you wanted to. But the premise of this, so the card 0 is the death card. So it starts at death, and these are the art cards. So the regular cards are a tarot card size. You can see these are pretty big. And on the back, it has, what's in the little guidebook. So it says 0, death. It is what we often fear most and know so little about. We imagine it as the soundless dark void where there is nothing everywhere. But in this oracle, death marks the start. Perhaps it is here that we can finally see death, not as the impending force of doom we so fear, but rather an escort to our next chapter. It is the end of a cycle and opens a door for a new lifetime to unfold. So that's kind of the premise of the deck. It's this liminal space, or this time period between lives. So it starts with death, and then it works its way through moving up through spirit into that place where our souls and spirits and energy goes as we regroup for our next life. So this is card number 1. It's the Crow, and we would know it as the Magician, the High Priestess. This is the Swan. I shouldn't try to match it up with our standardized tarot. Peacock, and then Pelican. And so here we have the final bird, and that is the Phoenix. So these birds take us along as we move from a physical body into an energetic body, and they accompany us as we move into that energetic space. And then it goes all the way. There's so you can see this is card 6, and it looks like the Lovers. This is card 7, and this is what the spirit plane looks like. So the spirit plane pulses with a warm magic that feels like home. The light here is a greenish hue, but feels warmer and brighter than anything felt on earth. The air is sweet and tranquil. Orbs of light float by you, and these are souls. A constant melody seems to follow behind each one. As a soul in the spirit plane, there is no conflict or sadness. War and disease do not exist. Time does not exist. Inequality is unfathomable. Life here is blissful. But without the bad, it is difficult to discern the good. So I love that. Anyway, it's a really interesting concept, and James R. Eads just did an amazing job on, as I said, keeping everyone in the loop in terms of the, how things were going, millions of stretch goals. It was just unbelievable. The box it came in was like this giant box. And it came with an amazing part of a stretch goal was this incredible hardbound guidebook. And when you hold it up one way, it's for the Cosmovisions, and when you flip it over the other way, it's for the Prismavision. It's just amazing. So I have not really had a chance to really dive into using that, but that is on my to-do list for the upcoming months. So how was your March? Let me know what decks you used. I'd love to hear your comments. I love to converse with you all. Do you have any suggestions for decks for folks? Did you use any old standbys? How was your March as we entered spring and we feel hope and lightness returning? So here's to you all. Have a wonderful April,